DSPs. We will be hearing today from Aubrey McFeeters, a program manager at Upreach, who will be discussing strategies that DSPs can practice to support self-care and mental well-being, especially after experiencing stressful situations or crises on the job. Our learning objectives for today, we would like participants to be able to identify different types of crises that are experienced by DSPs on the job, to describe short and long-term impacts of crises on professionals, and to discuss proactive and reactive self-care strategies. This time, I'd like to invite Aubrey to the stage as she shares her slides. Welcome, Aubrey, and thank you.
Good morning, everybody. And share here. Good morning. We're going to be going over self-care and mental health, like direct service providers after a crisis. I am a lead program manager at Upreach, a local provider agency in Franklin County. Let's go ahead and get started. So what is a crisis? What do you exactly mean by crisis in this context? It isn't just a difficult day, an event or situation that might overwhelm an individual's coping mechanism, leading to emotional, psychological, or even physical stress. A simple way to put it, it's a time of intense difficulty, trouble, or danger. Some examples of crises that we might experience from day to day include medical emergencies, so illnesses, seizures, choking, bleeding, or even medical equipment failure. Behavioral incidents, so any verbal or physical aggression, self-injurious behaviors, having to use physical restraints or property destruction. Traumatic events such as a car accident or experiencing loss, or maybe your client experiences loss to somebody close to them. This can also include a car accident or assault, a natural disaster, anything that's going to impact your client or yourself in the workplace. These events, by their nature, are disruptive and can leave a pretty lasting impression. So things that you might experience during a crisis, it's important to be listening to your body and, identifying what you are feeling in those moments. So when you're in a mindset of a crisis, your mind and body react in powerful ways. Your natural flight or freeze response is going to be kicking in at this time. You might physically experience a racing heart, shallow breathing, muscle tension, sweating, maybe feeling a little bit shaky. It's like a surge of adrenaline. Emotionally, you might be feeling some intense fear, anxiety, maybe some anger, or even confusion, a sense of detachment or potentially numbness. You could be feeling overwhelmed or helpless yourself. Cognitively, you could cause some difficulty concentrating, some blanks in your memory, repetitive thoughts about this event. So just kind of cycling through and really focusing on the things that happen, and an inability to make decisions quickly. Behaviorally, it could include restlessness, irritability, changes in your sleep pattern, so trouble falling asleep or difficulty waking up, and a tendency to kind of withdraw from the things in life that you might enjoy. Think about a time that you were working with a client and they were going through a tough time or having a crisis themselves. Do you remember how your body felt in that moment? Were you nervous? Were you shaky? Were you anxious yourself? It's important to remember that all of these emotions are normal and it's human reactions to abnormal or normal reactions to abnormal stressful situations. Acknowledging that you're experiencing all of these are the first step to working through them. So the long and short-term impacts of experiencing a crisis, some of the short-term effects could include difficulty sleeping, nightmares, intrusive thoughts, irritability, feeling easily startled. The impact of a crisis doesn't just disappear once the immediate danger is over. Self-care is vital to help avoid some of the lasting effects that crises can have. There can be short and long-term effects. Some of the long-term effects that can be a little bit more severe include chronic fatigue, persistent feelings of dread or hopelessness, social isolation, decreased morale, or a significant decrease in job satisfaction. So just being really frustrated with having to go to work, just not enjoying it the way maybe you once were in the beginning after multiple crises have happened with your client. All of these, especially when paired together, can lead to a high risk of burnout. So burnout is just that emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion caused by excessive stress. It can deplete your energy, your motivation, your ability to perform effectively, and it is a very common risk for DSPs. So the importance of self-care. When stress goes unaddressed, it directly impacts your job performance, and ultimately it impacts the quality of care you're able to provide to the individuals you support. Given the high risk of burnout, self-care isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. You can't take care of others until you take care of yourself. So to effectively support others, you must support yourself first. We'll go over a couple examples of self-care, but it's important to remember that self-care is any intentional action that you take for yourself, whether that's physical, mental, or emotional. Protecting all facets of your self-care is very important. Um, Proactively managing your stress and building resilience and not just reacting to when you're overwhelmed. So not, oh, I need to take care of myself after 3 really hard days in a row, uh, you know, at site, but doing it preventatively instead of just reactively. So um, prioritizing your self-care allows you to reduce stress, improve your mood and overall well-being, increasing your energy levels, and it enhances your ability to cope with future challenges. So provides better care to the individual, ultimately providing better care to the individuals you support. Some strategies for immediate post-crisis self-care. So things that you can do right after experiencing a crisis with your client. Um, Taking a moment to pause and breathe. If possible, step away from the situation for a few minutes. Take a few deep breaths. We're going to go over some breathing exercises that might be helpful. Normalizing your emotional response. So reminding yourself, strong reactions are very common. We're human. Um, so just taking a moment to normalize that emotional response and get back, collect yourself. Taking time to hydrate, maybe grabbing a drink of water, a small snack if you're able to. Your body needs energy to recover and feel its best. Similar to normalizing your emotional response, just taking time to reflect on your feelings. Don't suppress what you're experiencing. It's okay to be frustrated, upset, angry, maybe even a little scared. And then debriefing, connecting with a trusted colleague or maybe a supervisor, somebody who's a part of the client's team, just to discuss the situation, what happened, what we have done better, what tactics did you use? Just kind of really going over the entire situation to try to get a better response for next time or what went well for that time. And then practicing some grounding techniques, which we're going to go over in the next slide. So one of the most powerful immediate self-care tools is grounding techniques, breath work. When we're stressed out, our breathing becomes shallow and rapid. Deep controlled breathing can calm your nervous system. The next couple techniques don't need any extra items or you don't need anything. It's something you can do within your own space, in your own body. So they're good exercises to try when you are feeling a charge of emotion or really having some surge of emotions. So the first one is going to be the box breathing. The idea here is that you will follow the box, and that is like your visual. So you will start with inhaling for 4 seconds, inhaling through your nose for a count of 4, holding your breath for 4 seconds, then slowly exhaling through your mouth for a count of 4 seconds, and then holding your breath out for a count of 4 seconds. So repeating this a few times, and again, just visualizing that box and holding for 4 seconds, breathing for 4 seconds, holding for 4 seconds, breathing for 4 seconds. Would be a great technique. Another grounding technique is you might hear it referred to as the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. This is going to start with 5 things you can see, So if I'm sitting here at my desk doing this, 5 things I can see: a computer monitor, the pen on my desk, a picture on my wall, maybe the plant in front of me, and a card on my board. So then naming 4 things that I can feel and noticing the sensations and the textures of things. So I feel the cool air from the fan blowing, the rug kind of underneath my feet and my shoes here, the smooth surface of my desk, and maybe the uh, cold coming from my cup or something like that. And then the next 3 are going to be things you can hear. So listening for distinct sounds, whether that's far away or nearby. Um, I can hear the water cooler nearby. I can hear the person next to me's keyboard. I hear the person across from me's chair squeaking. Just really focusing on things that you might not be listening for on your day-to-day basis, or things that can kind of pull you out of the situation you're in. Next is going to be 2 things that you can smell. So identifying 2 different scents, even if they're very subtle. I can smell the laundry detergent lingering off my clothes. Um, and I can smell the coffee coming from my mug on my desk. And then lastly, it's going to be 1 thing you can taste. So the taste of a mint that you're chewing on, or and the meal that you just last ate. You're just going to identify something. So hopefully when you go through each of those texts and each of those senses, it'll bring you to a more calm space once you've kind of taken your brain away from the crisis and the event that you were just experiencing. The next one is the 4-7-8 breathing technique. Um, so it involves specific counts for inhaling, holding your breath, and exhaling. You're going to exhale completely through your mouth, making that whoosh sound. It's kind of part of the technique that helps you get back to base. You're going to inhale quietly through your nose for a count of 4 seconds, hold your breath for a count of 7 seconds, and then exhale completely again for a count of 8 seconds. The key is to maintain those specific ratios, the 4, 7, 8 for each part of the breath. And that exhaling can all really help to release some tension. So another thing that we discussed was debriefing after a crisis. Debriefing is just a structured discussion to help individuals process a stressful event. It can be something formal led by a supervisor or even a mental health professional, or it can be a more informal discussion, calling a coworker that also works with that client or somebody else that understands the situation. Processing the event, it's going to allow you to talk through what happened, clarify details, and make sense of the experience. It gives you a chance to improve future responses by reflecting on what happened. You're always able to identify areas of improvement in future crisis management. Increased communication and teamwork. Sharing with your team that, oh man, that really made me a little anxious before we had that client have that behavior, or just discussing afterwards is going to build the trust with your team and provides that shared understanding. Normalizing the reactions, hearing that, kind of similar to increasing your communication and teamwork, but hearing that others experience similar feelings can really validate your own reactions and leave you feeling less isolated. Identifying some coping strategies, you'll also be able to learn how others coped and shared effective strategies when you take the time to debrief. I think this can be overlooked quite a bit with our fellow coworkers. We're just really focused on getting on to the next and figuring out kind of what happened, that we don't realize some of our best resources are right with us there. Some physical self-care strategies to practice. Our physical health is directly linked to our mental health, so neglecting one impacts the other. Some physical self-care strategies: prioritizing sleep, aiming for 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep a night. Sometimes seems impossible, but it's important to try for. So just establishing a consistent sleep schedule. Nutritious eating, fueling your body with balanced meals. Avoiding excess caffeine and sugar, which can sometimes make the anxiety or the nervousness worse. Regular physical activity, short walk, release some endorphins, reduce your stress. Getting outdoors, spending time in nature, staying hydrated. Water is essential for all body functions, including brain health, so making sure you're staying hydrated. And trying to limit screen time before bed is another one that can kind of sneak up on you. And blue light from the screens can make it difficult to fall asleep. So trying to shut those electronics off before, the moment your eyes are closed. So some ongoing self-care that's important. It's important to remember self-care is not a one-time fix. It's an ongoing commitment. So scheduling time off, making sure to regularly use your vacation days, your personal time, stepping away from work completely. So taking the day off and then still answering your phone all day, or something is not quite taking the day off. So really disconnecting, taking time for yourself is important for the mental and emotional rejuvenation that you're seeking. Checking in with peers, journaling, taking some time just to write down your thoughts and feelings can be a powerful way to process what you're experiencing. It also gives you a place to kind of go back and check in with yourself, like, oh, 3 months ago, this is how I was feeling after this happened. And now 2 months later, 3 months later, I'm feeling this way after these events are happening. Making time for hobbies you enjoy, so dedicating time to activities that bring you joy and help you de-stress, whether it's reading, gardening, painting, playing sports, um, essential for disconnecting from work and recharging. Maintaining social connections, so spending quality time with friends and family, those who uplift you. You don't want to isolate yourself. Practicing mindfulness, so beyond those breathing exercises and grounding activities we were talking about, you can do other things. Paying attention to your surroundings, trying out meditation, mindful eating. All of those are great ways to practice mindfulness. And then if you're finding yourself struggling persistently with stress and anxiety or feelings of burnout, reaching out to a therapist or a counselor is always a great option. There's no shame in seeking professional help. It's a sign of strength and self-awareness. And then finally, building a crisis recovery plan. So this is just something that I kind of like to keep in the back of my mind, maybe on a note on my phone or something that is easily accessible to. Who can I talk to when I am overwhelmed? So just identifying somebody in your support system, whether that's a trusted colleague, supervisor, friend, family. Um, what is something calming I can do after work? Thinking about specific activities that help you unwind and detach from the day's stressor, like reading, listening to music, gardening. This can give you something to look forward to if at the beginning of your shift you're experiencing a crisis with your client, looking forward to reading your favorite book at the end of the day or something like that. What is one thing I can do immediately after a client crisis? So this is about your immediate go-to coping strategies, taking a few breaths, completing one of those grounding activities we discussed, connecting with a colleague. And then finally, do I need to reevaluate my boundaries to protect my energy? Reflecting on that work-life balance, and are you saying yes too often? Are you agreeing to too many shifts? Just setting clear limits on your availability and workload to preserve your energy. And then finally, just the support and resources that you have at your disposal and maybe that you can reach out to. So the mental health crisis line, their number is 988. Your peers and supervisors hopefully are a great resource for you. And then reaching out to your agency to see if they offer any type of support, whether that's counseling with their mental health, insurance services, employee appreciation, just different events that might help to provide some self-care after working with a client in a crisis. That is it for today. We will jump into case study.
Thank you so much, Aubrey, for that presentation, that focus on the wellness of DSPs themselves. Let me open it up to our participants and to our hub members if there are any questions that anyone has for Aubrey. And we'll just take a moment here. You can feel free to type a question in the chat if you like. Yeah, and we can also be thinking about, what are those effective strategies that you're utilizing or employing on the job after a crisis. I see Andrea in the chat gave a shout out to box breathing as a favorite strategy to kind of ground yourself and be mindful. Does anyone else have any strategies that they're using that they find highly effective or that they'd like to share with the group? Thank you, Brenda, in the chat. She mentions using diffusers and music very often, so really engaging different different sensations, auditory and smell. Jane mentions, I think, having regular meetings for the support team and caregivers to gather and debrief together, really emphasizing the importance of debriefing as a team. And I think, through that process, um, of sharing with your team, that it's kind of multifaceted in a way that can kind of support and not carry all of that weight yourself, and to gather a team of support and kind of strategizing and brainstorming after a crisis can also help to brainstorm future planning and prevention as well, and just kind of getting the support from your team members, I think, is really important. Um, yeah, Jane mentions discussing what's working, what's not working. That can be really valuable. I definitely agree with that. Anyone else want to echo something important that they heard during the presentation today, or add something else that they're doing for their own wellness? Yeah, thanks, Nikki. Also in the chat mentions, feeling confident, feeling okay to ask for a change, for a break, or for help. Yeah, oftentimes we feel like the weight of the world is on our shoulders, and, you know, knowing that it's okay to ask for help, to go to your supervisor, and, creating that climate in a workplace is really important too. And so, for DSPs, for professionals doing the groundwork out in the field, to be able to advocate for yourself and feel confident, um, talking about your needs is really important, as well as for supervisors, making sure that they're creating that type of climate and space, checking in with staff as well to maintain morale. Sheila is mentioning discussing and reviewing a crisis plan when there's not a crisis. So all staff are on board, talking about how our response to a crisis affects the participants' response. Yeah, really important point. And we talk about that in a previous session, where our response while a client is in a crisis can really exacerbate or work to get through that crisis and into the de-escalation more quickly and more smoothly, is really important by setting the tone, as you mentioned here, Sheila. Good points.
Especially if like at the beginning of your shift you're experiencing, a crisis right at the beginning. If you continually are responding with that built up aggression or frustration, the client's gonna pick up on that much easier than you know, fake it till you make it and push through and are able to get yourself back grounded and in a great spot. You continue and try to turn the day around.
It's great. Well, thanks everyone. I want to thank Aubrey again for presenting on this important topic for us today and is going to be doing some double duty here as we transition into the case study that Aubrey is going to be presenting to us as well. And in true fashion for the Echo model, we